Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about QR codes. QR codes, which stands for quick response codes, are digital barcodes that exist in the real world. That is, they occur in print or some other fashion, and they allow you to use your smartphone or other web-connected device to access a digital link without having to type in the entirety of the link. In general, they look something like this. QR codes are great because they make use of your cell phone's default camera. At least this is true of newer devices. Devices that are like 5 or more years old, you might have to download a special QR code reader app, but most relatively recent smartphones can make use of QR codes simply through the default camera application. A QR code can link to anything. At its base, a QR code links to a web address. That web address can be a website, it can be a single file, it can be a sound file. Really, it links to anything. To show you the functionality of a QR code, I'm going to put back up this one. I want everyone to take out their smartphone, go to their default camera app, it's the thing that they normally take pictures with, and point it at the screen. And try to get the whole barcode, the whole square thing in frame. If all went well, you should have had a prompt come up to take you to a website. If you click that prompt, you'll see that it brings us to our course website, specifically section 3. I made this QR code in about 30 seconds, and it's extremely simple to do. It takes no coding knowledge. Really, as long as you can copy and paste a URL, you can create a QR code to whatever you want. Now, a QR code doesn't make a lot of sense when we are using it on a computer because I could have just given you a link that you could have clicked and brought you to a website. Where a QR code really benefits the user is in print media. So, for example, you may have seen at restaurants recently, after the COVID pandemic that is, lots of tables will have stickers on them with QR codes that say something like, "Visit our menu online." They don't want to hand out physical menus because it takes a lot of time to clean things and it takes a lot of time to work with all of the sanitization for them. Instead, they have a sticker on the table that allows you to scan that and it'll bring you to a website that has a digital form of the menu. There are other ways to use QR codes that can greatly increase the ability for students to learn and participate in language tasks. And that's what I'm going to be covering today. We're going to set up our own QR code now. In order to do this, I'm going to get you to go to the website www.qrcode-monkey.com. Once there, you should be given a welcome page that looks something like this. On it, you'll have the option to insert your own URL. Right now, it's just with the qrcodemonkey.com URL, but you can put anything there. You have options for statistics. We're going to leave that off because those cost money. And same with the colors and logos. Those are all sort of premium features. QR codes by themselves shouldn't cost you anything, but sometimes these extra features will be offered at a premium. I wouldn't use them, at least not to start. So you'll see on the right pane, we're given a sample QR code. It has a little gradient, but you'll see once we actually generate our own, that'll go away. It'll just be black and white. We can choose the size of the resulting picture that we're going to have. Now, because we're going to be printing this, we want it to be as high of quality as possible. So just slide that over to the highest quality. And then, let's just say we want to create a QR code for this website, the qrcode-monkey. We don't have to adjust the URL at all. So we're just going to click generate. And when we do that, what we see is the QR code changes. And we are given the option to use one of these 3 boxes underneath to download a different format for QR codes. So now if you were to print this out onto a piece of paper, someone could take their phone and open their camera application, scan the QR code, and click on the prompt, and it would take them to this website. But how would we actually use this for something like language teaching? Well, there's a website called Vocaroo. To use Vocaroo, you'll go to www.vocaroo.com. Now that we're on Vocaroo, why don't we go ahead and record something? So I'm going to click allow. This prompt is just saying the website wants to use my microphone and I want it to, so I'm going to allow. Now we can see there's a square that's red and blinking, and then a timer. This means that it's recording, and you just click the square to stop recording. Or I could pause it if I wanted to keep recording but take a break. But I'm just going to talk for a few seconds more, and then I'm going to click stop. So now you can see we have this sort of cycle arrow, and that means to record again. It records over. It doesn't save what we've said. But let's say that we wanted to listen to what we just recorded. We could just click this play button, and we would be able to do that. Now we can see there's a square that's red and blinking, and then a timer. This means that it's recording, and you just click the square to stop recording. Or I could pause it if I want to keep recording but take a break. But I'm just going to talk for a few seconds more, and then I'm going to click stop. Now you could see that wasn't the greatest sound quality. That's because I'm using a microphone that's different than the one that I'm talking into for this video. Doesn't really matter. The point is, I was able to record myself saying something. If I'm happy with this, I can click save and share. You can see now what we have is a web address that we can copy back onto the qrcodemonkey.com. I can download the file. So I click that, it'll just download it for me. Or I can auto-generate a QR code directly from Vocaroo. So if we click that, we're given this QR code, and we can click Save QR Code. Now I can include that with anything that I want to print, and it will link to a page that looks very similar to this one. I'm going to leave this up on the screen, and I'm going to give everyone the opportunity to take out their smartphones, scan this, and see the recording. One thing that you'll notice is the downloaded file from Vocaroo is actually an MP3. Now this in and of itself is not a huge deal. If we really cared about a high quality recording, we wouldn't have done it through Vocaroo. We would have done it through one of the other methods that we've already covered in class. The reason that it's an MP3 in this case is because we're dealing with data and often on mobile devices. And so having a more compressed file format is good. If you wanted to do analysis, or you ever wanted somebody else to do analysis, obviously you would record this in a higher quality format. But for our purposes for this lesson, an MP3 is fine. One of the main drawbacks of Vocaroo and using it this way is that the link that it gives us here is not good forever. Eventually it will be either decommissioned entirely, so nothing will come up, or it will be replaced with somebody else's recording. The reason for this is that Vocaroo needs to actually store all of these recordings in order to be able to have them with links, and that costs lots of money and time. Vocaroo's great because it's not really giving us a lot of ads, it's a free service, and so as a result, they're not giving you long-term storage. If you had something, say on a university's archive or on your community's archive online, and you know that that's going to be good long-term, it's going to have a permalink or a permanent link that doesn't change, then you could go through and give that link to something like QR Code Monkey and use that for your QR code. If, for example, I were to print off everything that I said here and give a recording of it on Vocaroo, take that QR code and put it on a piece of paper, that'll probably be good for a little bit, but eventually that code will no longer be valid. So when we're talking about things like print, which last a very long time, it's probably not a good idea to use a free service like this. But if you're just doing handouts for your students and you're fine, every 6 months to a year or however often it needs to be, changing the QR code, then, it's fine. And I see that used often. The use of QR codes for language learning is obviously only bounded by your creativity. So obviously you can have it attached to stories that you have in print books, But let's look at something that's been happening here in Canada, where at a store, places are putting QR codes on their product description tags that allow people to see the syllabics. In this case, I believe it's Inuktitut, and hear how that's pronounced. So if we see on this web page, we can see this label here. Now I'll give everybody the opportunity to go ahead and scan this QR code. This one is bringing you to a file on northwest.ca's website. It still works. It seems like this is a permanent file, so that's great. If you don't have the ability to scan it, then I'll show you what happens when you do. When you scan it, it'll bring you to a web page like this, and it'll play the following file.
Canned vegetables. Qattaarsuunniittut peroqtut seernangittun. Qattaarsuummiittut peroqtut seernangittun.
So we can see the opportunity that QR codes give is a fantastic way to link speech and text, which is often something that's missing in a lot of language instruction. And that goes for any language. I remember in French class that I had to take in my grade school, I almost always dealt with text. I very rarely dealt with speaking. Our tests were mostly text-based. And as a result, I can sort of read French, but I can't speak it. And I understand it poorly. So QR codes are a great option. They do rely on you having a recording or making a recording, but we should know how to do that now, and you can always use vocaroo. And they are super versatile. So hopefully this has given you a little bit of a primer on QR codes. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.